Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be covering the rules for argument passing in Python. Let's get started with example for rule 9. I'm going to define a function f which includes a parameter x. So I'll have to say def space f open parenthesis x close parenthesis colon. Within the function definition, I'm going to assign the string b to the variable x. Let me call the print function to display x. I'm going to concatenate the string inside f colon with x before I call the print function. Outside the function definition, I'm going to define a global variable called val, and I'll be initializing string a as the value to the variable val. Then I'm going to call the f function and pass val as argument. Let me call the print function to display the value of the variable val before I call the f function. So I'm going to concatenate the string before colon with the variable val. Let me repeat the print function call for after the f function call. Let's step through this program from the beginning. Line 5 defines the function f. Line 9 initializes the value to the global variable val as string a. So you're going to get an entry for val within the global frame. So line 10 is going to display before colon a. After that, we are calling the function f by passing val as argument. This is going to create a new frame for f. Observe that a local variable called x got created inside the frame for function f. It contains the value as string a, which is the same as the value within the argument variable val. This concept in Python is called as pass by value. What is meant by pass by value? You take the value inside the argument variable and copy it over into the local parameter variable for the function invocation. So now when I click on next, line 6 is going to update the value of the local variable x to contain the string b. We are only reassigning the local variable's value here. It will not have any effect at all in the argument variable val, which will still have a value of string a. So line 7 is going to display inside f colon b. After the function f execution is complete, the entire frame will get deleted, including the parameter local variable. So now when we go back to line 13, that's going to just display after colon a. So rule number 9 states that in Python, arguments are passed by value, meaning that any kind of reassignments that you do to a parameter will have no change to the argument value. Let's change this example slightly for going through rule number 10. I'm going to change the variable name for the global variable to be x instead of val. Observe that the program produces the same output as before. So rule number 10 is rule number 9 plus immaterial of the variable name for argument or parameter. Let's step through this version of the program really quickly from the beginning. We define the function f. Then in line number 9, we are creating a global variable called x, which contains the value string a. Once we call the function, that will create a local parameter variable of x, which will contain the value of string a, which is copied over from the argument variable x. Then when we go through line 6, the reassignment will have an effect only within the local variable x, and it will not impact the argument variable, which was the global variable x. Then if we go back to line 12, that's going to display after colon a. Let me change this example slightly. Let's say that we want the change within the function f to have an effect in the global frame here. How can we achieve that? We'll have to return the value of the variable x, and we can capture the return value into a variable where we are calling the function. Let's say that we want to update the global variable x. So I'll have to say x equal to f of x here. So quickly stepping through, function definition for f will be line 5. Then we create a global variable x. Then we are calling the function f by passing x as argument. Within the function f, we are changing the local variable x to have a value b. Then we'll be returning the value inside the local variable x, which is b. In the place where we are calling the function, we are capturing the return value into the variable x, which is going to be reassigning the global variable to the value of string b. That will be it for the rules for the relationship between variables and functions. I'm going to go back to the battleship game that we covered 2 lectures ago, and I'll be making improvements to it. Please pause the lecture video here and open Terminal or PowerShell to navigate to the correct directory that contains battleship.py and launch idle editor by typing in idle3 space battleship.py on a Mac or idle space battleship.py on a Windows. I already have idle editor open here. I'm going to quickly go over the to-do fixes which I made since the previous version. I'm using the input function call with an appropriate prompt to get user guess for x and y. One thing that you need to remember about the input function call is that it always returns the type string. So you need to convert the return values type into an appropriate type. In our case, that would be integer. So I'm using the int open parenthesis close parenthesis typecast function. Let me run the current version of the program. I'm going to rearrange the output window in such a way that we are able to see the output of the program while being able to see the program itself. Let me enter the user guess for x as 7 and the user guess for y as 3. That should give me a hit here because the ship location is 7 and 3. What if I wanted to play the battleship game again? I'll have to run the program again, which is really cumbersome. Let me try input of 5 and 4 this time, which should give me a miss. Let's make improvements to this program. I'm going to take the lines of code which are highlighted with my mouse right now, and I'm going to move those into a function. Let me define the function as play underscore battleship, and the way that I can move these lines in is by selecting these lines of code and pressing tab on my keyboard. That will tab space all of these lines in. I'm going to call the play underscore battleship function 3 times. Let's say that we want to keep track of user score across the attempts that we provide for the user. We can do that by defining a global variable called total underscore score. I'm going to initialize the global variable to 0. Inside my function, I'm going to use the global declaration to let Python know that I want to use the global variable. How can you keep track of score? You can simply use the integer casted version of the symbol, correct? Recall that the symbol displays 0 for a miss and 1 for a hit. So I'm simply going to say total underscore score plus equal to int of symbol to keep track of the player score. Let me display the player score by typing in total score for player, comma, total underscore score. Let's run the updated version of the program, I'm going to press function F5. This time you'll notice that the program asks for three different user inputs. I'm going to try 5, 4 first, and then let me try 7 and 3 next. Looks like I entered the input incorrectly. I'm going to run the program one more time. I'm going to try 5, 4 as the first set of input, and then I'm going to try 7, 3 as the second set of input. Now that I know that the ship is at location 7 and 3, I'm going to guess 7 and 3 one more time, and my score should show up as 2 here. We did get the score as 2, so that seems to be working correctly. I'm going to give you a homework for this particular demo problem. What do you think will happen if you remove the global total underscore score line here? Try out that version of the program and make sure that you're able to understand the associated rule for global versus local variables there. Let me go to my terminal window and I want to quickly launch Jupyter Notebook. I want to briefly show you the guess.py program file which I used for the rest of the demo from lecture 6. So if you click on guess.py, you should be able to take a look at the definition for function f, which was the guess function of 1 minus x cubed. This particular script file also has function definitions for add and mult function. Please make sure to check those out. That will be it for today's lecture.